in talking to executives about their job search, I think the two things that I hear most about, which we know is true, but doesn't really help them. The two things are, I know most executives are going to get a job through network, but I don't know how that's done. And then there's the other element of the hidden job market. And I don't like to really call it a hidden job market, because it's not like somebody's trying to keep a job secret from you. And also, when you look at people getting a job through network, the other interesting thing too is that people come to me and they say, well, I've been out there networking and I've been talking to people. What jobs do you know of? And they don't know of anything. They say, I'll keep an eye out for you, but then they never hear anything back. And there's real reasons for that. And you can understand what both of those two things, what the shift in perspective is all about. If you think about why, because everything is behind the why, especially when you're in a landscape where it's uncertain, like we've been this year. It's always a little bit uncertain at the executive level anyway, because if you think about what an executive does, an executive isn't really a title-based thing. We don't really chase titles at the executive level, but what we do is we need an executive for guidance. And I think that guiding word maybe might have spurred on our theme a little bit, but that the guidance is what we need the executive for. If there's a disruption happening in the marketplace, we need some guidance to get there. And the issue is that posting a job is usually the last ditch effort. So one of the things that I do, and I've always done, even when I was a headhunter, is I like to ask people how they got their job. And at the executive level, I would, take my clients, I'd take a CEO, I'd take a CFO out to lunch, and I'd sit down with them and I'd say, so how did you get that job? After we've worked with people at ExecuNet, and we have a whole team of people that works with you in your job search, and then you land, I like to say, how did you get that job? And what I've found is that about 85%, and this is pretty concrete with most of the data out there, do get a job through network. But what most people tell me is when they first started the conversation, there wasn't even actually a job post yet. So Will, the funnel thing, I actually put together a little funnel with some quotes of things that people have said to me when I asked them how they got that job. So if you look at the funnel of opportunity, you can see that way down at the bottom is posting a job. So that hit everything above that. If you want, you can call it the hidden job market. But as you can see, it's not that it's actually hidden. It's just that maybe right somewhere around the middle is where it actually becomes, wow, this is a job. So when you're higher up in the funnel, it's still in problem stage. And I've heard in landing interviews, I remember one person, he was out to dinner with his wife. His wife ran into a work colleague and he started talking to the colleague's husband. The colleague's husband happened to be a CEO of a company, and he started explaining to him the problem he solves. Again, if you say you're looking for a job, this isn't going to work. But as he was explaining to him the problem he solves, the guy actually said, hey, can I take you to a coffee and pick your brain about something? In another instance, there was a scenario where it wasn't a first degree connection and it wasn't a chance meeting. It was a situation where they were looking at they were having an issue with some market penetration. I think it was in the Asian market. And they said, one of the stakeholders said, hey, wait, I know a guy who really knows a lot about that. But as it turns out, that guy wasn't available, and he said, hey, I'm going to have you talk to my colleague. Or no, it wasn't that he wasn't available. He said, I know somebody who's better at that than me. And so he referred him to him, and they started talking about it. And sometimes it's may actually all the way get formed into this is an actual job. And hey, there's a situation where we really need to hire somebody. But if it's truly an executive level role, they don't really know what that looks like. It doesn't start out with a job description. If you think about the two major components of job description, you've got the duties and responsibilities necessary to do the job, and the skills or the experience necessary to do it. If it's really an executive level role, these are the two things they don't really know. So writing a job description is one of the very last ditch efforts. Matter of fact, as a headhunter, if we would see a job posted, like a 300, 400, 500K position posted, we're looking at each other saying, how did it even get that far? Because so much happens in this funnel of opportunity. And I try to explain this to people, and people say to me, tell me about the hidden job market. How come my network's not working for me? You know, I don't really understand it. They say people get a job through network, but I don't, but I network. I go to networking meetings. I hand out my cards. I connect to everybody on LinkedIn. And I've tried to explain these situations that come up in these landing interviews. And then one day I had this favorite show that was on for about 5 years called Silicon Valley. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It's so true to Silicon Valley that if you've actually worked in Silicon Valley, you may want to avoid this show because it might be a little PTSD. But it is just point on for so many things. And then one day I saw the scene and I was like, that's how people get hired. This is what the landing interviews sound like. So I was telling Tony about it, and Tony and Will said we could go find that clip. So I thought I'd let them show it to you. Shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, Silicon Valley is about Silicon Valley.
Look, when you take it all into account, turning down our Series B and doing an ICO to fund your launch may actually give you the best odds.
You said ICOs are suicide.
Well, I'm a VC, and some of that might have been self-preservational.
Okay. Well, even if you were exaggerating, it's still right. I mean, Russ Hanneman had 36 chances to make an ICO work, and he basically failed. I only have one.
Look, Guilfoyle can handle all the technical stuff. You just need to hire someone who can handle the business side.
Like who?
I don't know. I'm sorry, but I gotta Uber back to the office before Lori realizes I'm gone.
No, wait. Who do I hire? Someone who understands securities, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, your coin doesn't have to be a security. You could do a utility token instead, since you provide an actual unit of compute, although you'd have to convince the SEC. Damn it, surge pricing.
Monica.
You might not even need to bother with a moving average pricing strategy when you launch, but you will need to keep a close eye on statements from the federal government, South Korea, and China. So whoever you do hire should definitely know how to do all that. Okay, 6 minutes.
Monica.
What?
It's you. You're the right person.
No. No.
Come on, give me one good reason.
I love my job.
You hate working for Lori.
With Lori, okay? We are both equal partners.
Okay. Look, Monica, I will do the ICO, but only if you do it with me. Come on. Wait, what's happening?
Canceling my Uber. Pied Piper coin is totally gonna work.
Listen, Tony, playing it all the way to the end. Anyway, I can't tell you how realistic that scenario is. Companies, and I know it sounds like a CEO thing, and Monica's job that she took was a COO position. It's not just a CFO thing. I mean, it's not just a CEO thing. It could be a CFO. It doesn't even have to be a C title. It can be a VP. It can, in some instances, it's been a senior director. but they've all been situations when people got in the door for an opportunity where there wasn't even an open job yet. They had no idea, or put it this way, they didn't have a correct concept of what background they needed. And that's usually the point where they go out saying, what do we need? And when people have branded themselves with their value proposition versus their background. So what's the difference? Your background are your skills and your experience and your accomplishments. When people have branded themselves with their background, they're not easily identifiable for an actual problem. But when people have branded themselves with the value that they bring to the table, in other words, the problem they solve, their guidance, their, like how Monica was seen as the person that can guide them through and navigate through the waters or the galaxy that they didn't know, and they needed that person to be their Sherpa.